Hi, everybody. One sec while I pull up my PowerPoint for you. Okay. Yeah, so she already said the title of my presentation. Basically, I let my students choose how they wanted to be graded this semester, and I want to tell you about how it went. Assuming the PowerPoint is displaying correctly, you can see I have several different roles at CUNY, but today is just going to be about my teaching. So last semester in the fall, I was originally assigned to teach hybrid, and then it became all online. So because it was originally supposed to be only one synchronous session in the first place, that turned into originally one Zoom class per week. But everything was still crazy in the fall. So I decided to make Zoom class optional, and we taught primarily asynchronous using the CUNY Commons. I had no penalties or cutoffs for late work, and my standing policy is that students can revise assignments as many times as they wish. This turned out, it shouldn't have surprised me, I think, but it did. Attendance declined pretty rapidly over the course of the semester, and then as that was happening, I started planning less for asynchronous sessions because I knew not that many people were going to be there. So it became essentially office hours over time, which was fine with me. The whole purpose was to let students do what was easiest for them to manage all the different points of their lives, but that was how it went. But in their final reflections, they were about 50-50 in terms of whether or not they liked how I had set up the class. And so here are some quotes from the students' final reflections. On the left is suggesting changes, and on the right is stuff that they liked. So this first student suggested to make attending Zoom class mandatory. She really wishes she had attended. She regretted not attending and thinks if I had just forced them to under pain of grading punishment, then she would have, and that would have been good. And then someone else said the same thing. On the other hand, and those are just representative of what several different students said. On the other hand, some students were really happy about it. In this first quote, they said they thought I should do exactly what I did for every semester. And several students felt like the course policies showed that it was being considerate of their needs and flexibility, and felt cared about and stuff like that. So with this feedback being very half and half, I was like, how am I supposed to respond to this and take the feedback into consideration if I can't do both of these things at once? So my solution was to do both of them at once. So this semester, I had two different grading plans that the students could choose from. Zoom class was required for the first grading plan. That's the structure and accountability plan. And it was optional but encouraged for people who chose the second grading plan. At the beginning, or right before the beginning of each unit, students would choose which one they wanted for that unit. And then they could choose to switch before the next unit, and we have 3 units. I still didn't do any penalties or cutoffs for late work until, the end of the semester. They could still revise as many times as they wanted. And we've been doing synchronous class on Tuesdays and asynchronous on Thursdays. Like last semester, attendance has declined, but not nearly as bad as in the fall. They still have between 4 and 15 students showing up every week. And right now, only one of them is required to come. So I certainly have a lot of voluntary participation happening. And the way the grading plans work was with structure and accountability. Not only are they required to come to the Zoom classes, but they have more completion-based assignments, some of which have to be done based on stuff we're doing in class. And then the second option, the autonomy and flexibility or maximum flexibility option, I'm only grading them on the big writing projects and the reflections for each unit, plus a couple smaller assignments at the very beginning and at the very end. These students could also always choose to do the assignments that they weren't being graded on, and some of them have and some of them haven't. So this is how the choices turned out for this semester. In Unit 1, it was about 2/3 who wanted maximum flexibility and 1/3 that wanted structure and accountability. Those numbers shifted a little bit going into Unit 2. I had some students who just didn't pick one. And then Unit 3, almost everyone has chosen to be on the maximum flexibility plan, which is about what I expected, that it would go that direction over the course of the semester as people realized what their workloads were going to be for their other classes, got stressed as we all do mid-semester, etc. In addition to just having these options, the additional supports I've been giving them to sort of facilitate this plan, the system working, is before each unit, I post an outline of everything that will be required under both plans and how it will impact their grade for that unit, like you can see on the right here. And so they can make a super informed decision about what they want to be required to do going into that unit. And then at the end of each unit, I have them do a unit reflection. And some of the questions I'm asking them is what did they do that helped them succeed, what they would like to do differently in the next unit, and what additional resources or supports they would like from me. And so my goal with this is to get them being consciously self-reflective about their habits to figure out like what sorts of structures or lack of structures do they want, or even if they don't want it, what do they realize might help them work the best. Such as to help those students from last semester who were saying that they really wanted to be required to do stuff because they knew that without that threat, which is unfortunate, a threat of a 0, they wanted to do it but needed to be forced to do it. So like requesting. Comparing the grades for the semesters, on the left here, you can see the final grades for my fall 2020 students. We had a lot of A's, 2 B's, 2 C's, no D's, and then 5 F's and 5 withdrawals. This isn't directly comparable because this semester is, of course, still going on. So we have a lot more grades in the middle right now, but I expect it will move out to the sides as some people turn in more of their missing work, turn in more assignments, and then others continue not turning in assignments. So I think we'll see more people move toward A and more people move toward an F or withdraw, unfortunately. So I'm expecting the actual grade outcomes will be about the same. But my goal is just make the students more comfortable and less anxious. And then to compare the grading plans with each other, almost everyone with a C and below right now has chosen to not have that additional structure and accountability for all 3 units. But that's not to say that that plan is worse for students, because the other 10 who made the same choices have A's and B's. So it's still more people who chose that plan are succeeding as opposed to struggling. So I really think it is just based on, the students and what's going on in their lives rather than the structures, because it seems that both are providing opportunities for students to succeed. And then here's some quotes from my students this semester from their mid-semester reflections. And I'm just going to read them to you because I think they make some important points. So the first person said, I think more professors and teachers should use your grading plans. It allows for students to figure out how they work best and how they create the best work possible. Second student said, the grading plans are good for students and allows them to be responsible for their own work. I'm really glad the student said that because that was one of my goals, is asking people to take more responsibility for their own learning. The third person said, the reason I enjoy this is because it allows everyone to make their own decisions for the class because everyone has different situations going on in their life. Other teachers, I feel, don't care about what others are experiencing and just teach the class mindlessly, which I don't like. And then this last one says, it's something you should continue doing in future semesters. I feel strong and confident in this class. I'm able to focus on my 2 jobs and school. Something that I've had students both last semester and this semester tell me is that they have been deliberately shirking off some of my assignments because they know it will be okay to do it later, which could be frustrating because students are explicitly telling me that they're slacking off in my class. But that was the goal for this system, is so that students would feel comfortable making those choices for how they needed to prioritize their stuff and giving them a little bit more flexibility. And what I'm experiencing right now is a flood of students who maybe I haven't heard from in a month suddenly turning in assignments because now their priorities have shifted. They made it through their midterms with their other classes. They're circling back around to work on stuff for me. And is that the ideal form? No, I would prefer people do it along the calendar that I set out. Like I made hopefully good pedagogical choices with the calendar. But what I always tell them is I'd rather them do it at some point than not do it at all. And I think having really strict late work requirements incentivizes students to not do things if they're going to miss it on the deadline, rather than doing it late and still getting something from it. Some more student quotes. This one says, I think the system of grading plans is perfect. You made sure to think about those other kids, including me, who do not really have the time to join a class. You made sure that although we did not go to class, they still got credit for our work. And then this next one is, the ability to choose how we wanted to be graded is a very rare occurrence to have. So to have this opportunity is amazing considering the current climate we are in. This relaxed system gives me time to breathe, if that makes sense. I just feel as though this grading system is perfect for online school. However, I have not gotten universally positive feedback about this plan. And here are the 2 exceptions that I've received. One student said, I wish there was only one grading plan. Having to choose is stressful for me, and I wish I didn't have the option to choose, even though it's very, and she said, convenient. If class were in person, yes, 2 grading options is a great idea because students can be engaged in class either way. However, being online, it's very hard to focus, and I wish you only offered one grading plan so I don't have to choose. And then another student said, there's nothing you should change other than forcing students to attend Zoom meetings. This particular student who wrote this has been attending very regularly, but in the other questions on the reflections, several people have said that they wish more people participated in class, like verbally. So I think this is coming from there and a concern for wanting his classmates to talk more. So my reflections on how this has been going is I definitely plan to continue using this system in future semesters, but I want to rearrange the percentage breakdown of the total grade and how I'm phrasing some of the stuff in the syllabus for greater clarity. I don't necessarily think that the way I have it set up makes it easy for students to know how different things will affect their grades. So I need to work on making that more transparent. Some other challenges that have been okay with me because I only teach one class, but would be harder if I was a full-time teacher, as Blackboard doesn't allow for automatically configuring 2 different grading systems. So I have to do it manually and just keep a separate list in a Word doc of who is using which plan for that unit, which is easy to track for right now. But if I had, 100 students, that would be a little bit harder. So that's what I've been doing this semester. I'm going to check the chat now to see what the question is. Okay, so what content do you provide for those on the maximum flexibility plan? What do you do with your students during the synchronous sections? How does this format affect your workload as an instructor? I'll start with the last part first. My workload has gone down. This is the first semester I've ever taught, and I've been teaching this is my 3rd year teaching. When the hours I spent on teaching actually fit within the hours I'm paid for. And I think it's because fewer people are choosing to turn in like first drafts, for example. and fewer people are doing the smaller completion-based assignments, so grading is a lot shorter. My workload's also been less this semester just because I'm teaching the same class I did last semester, so there's less prep work to do. The work is more spread out. I don't have the ability to just be like, okay, I'm going to do all the Unit 2 projects right now because many students are turning them in late. So I'm not having like sit down, grade everything days, but I actually prefer that because I just do them as they trickle in. And in terms of content, I can actually just link you to my course website so you can see. 1 minute. So for all of the students, we use this course website. I post weekly agendas and overviews. And then for the weeks when we're doing like content instruction, I post digital lectures, usually in the form of text, but sometimes I also make videos. And then a lot of the work I'm having them do, because it's writing in the disciplines, so we're just doing genre study each unit, is I'm having them read different examples of writing in those genres. And my expectation is that rather, I tell everyone on the maximum flexibility plan, you will do best if you do still do all the readings, attend class, at least think about the questions I ask in the smaller completion-based assignments, even if you aren't writing them out, because that's what's going to help you do the best. And I feel like even though this seems like letting students off the hook, I feel like plenty of students don't do the reading even when they're required to do the reading. So I would kind of guess that student engagement has been about the same as it would be in a normal class. We're just making the implicit understandings transparent. And several of the students on the flexibility plan have told me that they are still watching the videos, reading the readings, keeping up to date on the website, stuff like that. Oh, hi, Jody. Jody says, could you describe the difference you experience when you grade a final project from someone who has done all the work leading up to it and those who have opted not to? Yeah. I try to give more comments and feedback on the final projects from people who haven't been turning in the completion-based stuff leading up to it, because I've had less time to opportunities to dialogue with them leading up to that. So if they want to revise their paper, I want to give them as much feedback as I can, because often this is the first draft I've received from them, whereas the other people who chose the structure plan have sent me information already. And I think because we have digital portfolios required in all of our composition classes, and I ask them to revise a project of their choosing for the portfolio, they all still have not only the in their time off option to revise, but built into the structure of the class, another opportunity to revise. And for those portfolio revisions, I do regrade them to replace their original project grade also. So it's sort of a double bonus for doing that work. And I do feel like, I don't think there's been a stark difference in the quality of the projects between people on the different plans. Yeah, that's my last slide. So if people have other questions or stuff you'd like to share, we have another 10 minutes in the session.
Can I just talk instead of
Yeah, totally.
typing out my my response. I just love the being explicit um, about what your expectations are for your students or what you're willing to accept from them, as opposed to kind of playing a mystery game of like, these are my deadlines and they're hard and fast. And if you're not going to hand it in on time, and then like the students just don't know what the consequences are, or they've like intuited from other instructors what those consequences are, and largely that they say things like, well, it was late, so I didn't do it, or those kinds of things, to really build out that explicit understanding of what is possible. Sounds great.
Yeah, and I totally did that as a student, like wouldn't turn in late work out of shame and would just rather take the 0. Um, and so I tell them like the deadlines on the syllabus are for their benefit, not for mine. So if they need some more time, please take it. And I want to say, I didn't count this up, but I think most of the late work has been just a couple days late as opposed to postponed indefinitely. Although there's certainly people who, are still making up stuff from mid-semester, but like that's fine. If that works for them, that's what they need to do.
Because I definitely have that approach, but I don't make it explicit of like, you could be on this plan to have already acknowledged that you are not aiming to follow these structures. I think it's really great to offer that explicitly, as opposed to like midway through you're saying like, well, let's work together, what's possible.
Yeah, like some students are super willing to ask, and some are willing to ask but feel bad about it and apologize a million times per email. And I feel like some students just don't want to ask, or they're scared to ask, or whatever. So if I just tell it from the outset, then hopefully it's more equitable for everybody.
And then I just wonder if it offers students the language to talk about their own work habits, to ask in other classes for that kind of flexibility, or to advocate for themselves.
I hope so. I want to develop my reflection questions more to sort of foster that kind of detail level of thinking about it more. Um, I don't know, especially online, I feel like I know less about the students' lives, both personally and academically, so it's harder to tell. So we don't have that like chatting aspect.
Any other question or comments?
Can I jump in? Can I have a question or comment?
Totally.
I don't know if it's a question or comment. But I missed most of the presentation, so I'm really sorry about that. But I'm super interested in this kind of like flexibility with the way students take courses and like setting their own kind of goals, or like recognizing what their needs are. So I just thought maybe people will be interested to hear that like in my classes I have like, and this is in person and online classes, where students at the beginning of the semester like indicate how many absences they want to permit themselves throughout the semester. So they can choose, like if they aren't able to make class regularly, then they can say that they want unlimited absences. They almost never do. Or they can set a goal of no absences, which I discourage them from doing. But I think the students respond really well to that, and like being able to take sort of, I don't know, to feel like they're in control of what it is and to recognize their own needs, I think is a really important skill. So I guess I don't have a question. I just, because I missed most of the presentation, but I thought that might be interesting for people to hear. So thank you.
Thanks. I like that a lot.
We still have 5 minutes.
Does anybody want me to scroll back? If there's something on a previous slide you want to look at again?
But if you want to, maybe, yeah, you still have 5 minutes, yeah.
Hi, Olivia. Can I ask a question?
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
I'm Lori. Thanks for this presentation. It's really cool to see how you kind of implemented this flexible grading policy. And I was looking through your course website and it's so extensive. Like, it's really cool. You produced a lot of videos and you have like this really amazing like course structure. And I'm wondering if you've gotten any response from students, how students have responded to your course site, like moving off of Blackboard, if they've said anything about that.
Yeah, most of them haven't commented one way or the other. A few have said they find it confusing. And I also kind of find it confusing since the format of a long blog roll is not super great. And I think because a lot of stuff is appearing in multiple categories, I do want to figure out how to clean it up a little bit more. Some more students have said that they find it understandable, but would prefer me to do stuff on Blackboard just so that all of their classes are in the same place. And then I had one student this semester who said she really liked the course site. Normally, I ask students to do more writing on the site themselves. This semester, it was an option, but not required. In in-person classes, I have a couple days when we just go to the computer lab and like I teach them how to do the posting. But we haven't done that this semester, of course. But I think it's important to teach on the Commons because it's WordPress based and we have to do digital portfolios. And I'd rather ask them to use WordPress for that, since that's something they could use in their lives, as opposed to something like Digication, which is limited to just college situations.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that. I can see how the blog roll and all that stuff can be confusing, and it's probably a lot of work for you doing like the organizing too. But I thought your site was I didn't want to say your site was confusing. I thought it was clear and great. I was really impressed by all of your modules and all the readings. So all your readings are linked, which I thought was really cool.
A lot of it is stuff I just pulled from last semester's website. I was teaching with a Commons component even before lockdown. So it's been less work for me because I had a lot of it built out already. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing your grading methods with us. It was great.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, so thank you, Professor Olivia Wood.
Thank you.